Tonight on our podcast, we have the privilege of having one of the smartest and best handicappers out there. She provides tremendous info, knowledge, and picks on her Stack of Stats podcast. She's also a contributor and part of Yahoo Sports. We are happy to welcome Pamela Maldonado. Welcome,
Hey,
Pam. Thank you for being on the
thanks for,
show.
absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
First of all, can you give us a little background and history on yourself? How is it that you got where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a long story, but I come from the poker world. And so I ate, breathed, and slept poker. I woke up playing poker. I went to bed playing poker. And the only escape that I had was kind of sports betting. It was while everyone was doing crossword puzzles or the New York Times weekly puzzle piece or playing Sudoku or whatever it is, chess. I kind of took up sports betting as a hobby and it was my escape from poker. And then I started posting some Twitter pics, just games that I was going to be taking on. And I never just posted a pic. I always posted a reasoning and I kind of developed a little following from that. And then once I left poker, during my time, I had people from other companies follow me because they really liked the insight that I provided. And when I left poker, I woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to be in this industry anymore. And so I left. And then Oddshark, the company that took me on, they hired me fairly quickly. They reached out, said, "Hey, we see you're a free agent. Would you like to join our team?" I Next thing I know, I'm flying out to Vegas. And then I've been in the industry for a couple of years now. So it was kind of good, just fortunate timing and
Man,
mixed in with my hobby.
that's amazing. I mean, again, that's great. I mean, it's funny you mentioned poker because me and the guys, those of us that are doing this podcast, we play poker. We're in a small poker group that plays just about every week, and
Mhm.
they're really big into poker. And we call ourselves jokingly the WKPT, which is West Kendall from Miami,
Right.
it's the West Kendall poker tour. But so that with that in mind, where when you got into it, would you have any reservations? Were you scared? Were you worried? What was Did you have a backup plan?
So actually my plan when I left poker was I was going to get into personal training for fitness. I'm a bodybuilder, so I wanted to take a year off, do a couple of competitions within bodybuilding, and then get my certification, get into nutrition. So I actually still got those things while I was with Oddshark. I told my just because I made a promise to myself that I wanted to do this, so I'm going to see it through. So, I mean, if worst comes to shove, I still can get into fitness and maybe take on some clients. But no, I wasn't nervous at all. It was everything they allowed me to do, everything that I was already doing, which is just analyze and do games how you do and don't be forced to make a pick or do anything like that. So, and then during the pandemic, I found a niche of analyzing the betting market within the political spectrum. So I'd like to believe that I was the only one kind of doing that. And it really came in handy during a time where there was no sports and it just kind of became like my favorite thing to do. So, no, it was good timing. They've been great. They were great to me. And then it was just an opportunity that came about with Yahoo. So I hopped on then with something.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the bodybuilding because that was something I was going to talk about later on. Because I know you're into health, healthy eating and working out and things like that. And I was just going to mention, if you could just describe that a little bit more, just how important that is, especially at a time like now that we've gone through the pandemic and how important our health is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I think there's a connection there between how you treat your body, you treat your mind. If you treat your body well, your mind's going to follow. So healthy, if you have in a healthy lifestyle of great food intake, you're not, consuming loads of sodium, crap food of like pizza and burgers and all this daily chips, cokes, then positive. If you have a good health, then your mind's going to be right. It's going to be put you in a good spot for better thinking, better analyzing. You'll last longer in the day. You'll be able to do more, be more productive. So I think there's just a connection there between healthy lifestyle and being successful when it comes to like numbers.
No, I mean, definitely with the whole way and the way you do it. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. Um, Analyzing the stats and doing the things in the background that you give. It is important to have a keen mind and be focused on what you're doing and how it's working. And with that
Mhm.
being said, this has been mostly a male oriented business. Now there's a number of women involved, including yourself, that have become successful doing, getting on capping, talking about gambling and the games and what sides to choose.
Right.
Can you give us a little bit like, how have you been received? Was there any animosity? Was there any type of issues where the guys were like, oh, I can't believe this girl, or whatever the case?
No, not at all. I believe that there's uh, I think people have respected what I've done because I always give a reason to what it is that I'm taking. I never just post Texas -5 and then let it be that. I always, always, always provide a reasoning. And whether you agree with that reasoning or not, it's up to you if you want to follow. And I never have once suggested you should bet this game. I always, every single one of my tweets I post, I am playing because I'm not telling you to bet it. If you agree with my analysis, and hey, you're welcome to follow. And if you don't, well, then you're welcome to fade. It doesn't matter for me. I'm going to play it. This is what I am playing. This is what I'm choosing. This is what I am selecting to put actual dollars on. And it's up to you as the user if you want to follow. So I think a lot of people have respected that. And I'm very transparent. I have a record, a Google document that I shared to the public, and they see absolutely everything I talk about, whether it's content related for my job or whether it's what I'm actually putting money on. You can see, and there's a difference, and you can see the difference, and it's up to you whether you want to follow.
Okay, and speaking of that system, or how you break down games, can you tell us a little bit about how you prepare and you analyze and eventually how you come up with your pick or picks? And
Yeah, I start first with data. So there's a key number of data points that I look at, and I let that be where I look first. So I'll look for certain things within this spectrum, and then from there, I'm like, okay, I narrow it down from the 50 games down to 10 games. And then I go into a deep dive of actually analyzing, well, how are they winning? How are they losing? Was it a fluke win? I look at the details. I don't just like, oh, they won 58-30. I look, well, how did they win? Well, it's because the other team had multiple turnovers and 21 points were scored from defensive touchdowns, or well, the quarterback went out in the third quarter. That kind of changed the dynamic. So I'm always looking into the details of the games. I'm never just looking at a score, at a box score, and then moving on. I really analyze a strength versus weakness, whether it's a quarterback protection versus quarterback pressure. I look at, if you're a run team, well, then if you're a one dimensional offense, then how is it that one dimensional offense going to hold up against the defense? If you are a one dimensional offense, you better be the best damn one dimensional offense, like top 5, top 10, in order for me to back you, because that's going to be a lot harder to defend than, say, somebody who's ranked at the top 50 for that respective category. So I will never give away my exact secret, but I do go a little further into the deep dives, probably than most.
no, and again, I mean, that's one of the things that again is myself looking at games and things like that, and as I mentioned earlier to you off of the interview, or the I do give, I try to go over 5 or 6 games as well every week on the podcast, and I try to get that as well, maybe trends as well as certain stats, and with that being said, have you ever used algorithms? Do algorithms play any part in what you do? Have you ever messed around with them?
I do not. I use pen and paper.
And just stats?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I look at ESPN box scores. It's really simple. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's really simple. Pen, paper, ESPN box scores. That's my process.
No, I mean, and again, and I'll tell you what, it works for you. I mean, you do a great job of that, and like you said, it's you leave it up to the consumer to whether they want to take it or not, and you do give a lot of good information. You know, you're also doing that now with the NFL a little bit, and you've been collaborating with Kelly in Vegas on NFL plays. Can you tell us
Mhm.
about that and how that got started?
Yeah, she's one of the women that I've one of the few people, I shouldn't say women, she's one of the few people that I've been following since I started sports betting myself. She's definitely one of the original people within the industry who has had success as far as like mainstream media. And her and I actually lived in Vegas. I still haven't actually met her in person, but we've been friendly through communications for years now. When I left Vegas, I live in Texas, and her and I just started communicating, and we've crossed paths. We share kind of some of the same professional circles. And preseason, I just knew that I wanted to get into a contest. And I thought, who better to pair up than with her? I'm actually in a few contests and I have a partner in each of them. So I thought for NFL, she did really well at NFL last year. NFL is definitely a league that I want to get better at. So I thought it would be a really great opportunity for me to not only learn from her, but then maybe I can provide some insight for her. And then we kind of just bounce back and forth and develop. And now we've just kind of grown into this friendship. So it's been really great having her on my side and having her. I mean, yeah, like I've been learning a lot from her. I like the way she looks at games is entirely different from how I look at games. So happy to have it.
So, okay, and with that, do you see a correlation with the stats that like you use in college football to the NFL? Like for me, I've again I've dabbled a little bit into the stats, and I do try to look at stats and who gives up what, who have they played, et cetera, et cetera. But in the NFL, it seems like it's a different animal.
Right. No, not entirely. You can't really look at it the same. It's for when it comes to college, I'm looking at the collective unit. I'm looking at a pass rush. I'm looking at a running back. I'm looking at the four running backs that they have. I'm looking at the collective offense, the collective defense. When it comes to the NFL, I'm looking at more individual players. I do want to see how Aaron Rodgers himself matches up to a pass rush. I want to see how the second string running back, how AJ Dillon matches up to the run defense. So I think when it comes to college, I'm looking at just the general landscape. I really don't even target out any specific players unless it's the quarterback, really. And then for NFL, it really is specified to each individual player, which is why I do like player props.
Interesting. Now, with that being said, Aaron Rodgers is out this weekend. Has that influenced what you guys were going to do or looked at, or is that were the Packers anywhere on the radar?
I mean, actually, they were on my radar and I think it's just an overreaction. We've seen this before already, where they didn't have Devontae Adams. They rolled him out last week and it really didn't make a difference. Oh, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have weapons. Yeah, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. And yes, it is the quarterback and it is the most significant position that you can have. However, when you're facing a rush defense that is susceptible, then you have a Packers offense that still has AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I mean, I think those are two key players who can take the team on their own. And Kansas City hasn't shown anything defensively that they can stop teams. So I think the Packers are going to be just fine.
Got you. Thank you. And okay, now building off of your football capping experience and stuff, you've been very successful, or quite successful lately in the golf world. Can you maybe tell us what statistics do you look at for golf? I mean, again, I know you do a lot of head to head and things.
Right. More importantly, I look at the putting surface. So you have Bermuda greens, you have paspalum greens. There's different surfaces. It's just like tennis. If you're playing on clay court, if you're playing on grass court, if you're playing on hard court, it's similar to golf. There's a different putting surface, and there's a lot of models. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of data that tells you that you can play if a player is successful on this putting surface or not. Because more often than not, all of them are going to be able to drive it. All of them are going to be able to hit with the irons. It's just, are you going to be able to knock in some of those birdies that are required in order for you to win a tournament? So that's always most importantly what I weigh heavily for every tournament is, can you putt on the certain putting surface?
Okay. See, again, and the reason I ask you that is when you look at golf and when you look at people that talk about golf, it's how each individual player fits to the course. If it's a long course, if it's shorter, and those the ones people that handicap it will break that down. And to be honest with you, I think that your philosophy looking at the putting greens and how each guy or player reacts on each putting green is important, because again, it's the old saying: you drive for show and you putt for dough.
Right. Exactly.
You're absolutely correct. And again, a lot of our listeners that don't know a lot about you. I mean, you were a really good high school golf player in your own right, and with that being said, I do know that you play occasionally, or as much as possible. Let me say that.
Right.
As much as you possibly can, because I know you've been very busy with this business and the things that you're doing. What are your favorite courses, or what courses is like one of your top ones?
Well, I lived in Vegas for a few years, so my favorite golf is in Vegas. They have some of the best golf courses. They are maintained and well conditioned throughout the year. Um, January through December, you have perfect conditioned courses, and my favorite would probably be Wolf Creek. It's on the north side of Vegas. It's about 30 minutes north. It's just beautiful mountain backdrop. It's gorgeous, and I mean, it's just fantastic. I like scenery, and that definitely offers the scenery.
Excellent. Thanks, because I might be going to Vegas, or I am going to Vegas for New Year's, so I might have to take you up on that and take a look at it. Are there any courses that you haven't played that you've, like said, man, I really would like to go play that course, or interested in going to?
I would like to play in the East Coast. I haven't played. I've only traveled to the East Coast just a handful of times, and I have yet to play golf. So I would definitely like to make a trip specifically for golf and play out in some of the maybe during the fall season when the weather is nice and cool and experience some of that foliage. And yeah, I think that would be fun.
Cool. Okay, another question. Now, what other sports do you cap other than golf and football? Is there anything else that you dabble into, that you look at, that you have plays for, that you like to look at?
I really only do ATP tennis. I don't touch WTA. My focus is on football, PGA, and ATP tennis, especially since it is throughout the year. Um, Golf and tennis are two sports that are played 12 months out of the year, so there's never a shortage of opportunity for betting. And then it gives me a good break for I'm so fixated on football from August to February, and then from March through July, August, I'm able to do those two other sports and not feel bombarded by a daily game. It's weekly. It's fine. It works out.
And one more question. Who's influenced you, or been someone that you've that you've emulated, and you dive into the gambling world, or that's guided you or helped you move along in what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say my guy. When I first got into sports betting, I knew that I was good at it because I would talk about it on the tables of, oh, I like this team, I like that team. And he was like, well, how about you actually like start wagering on it? And he kind of showed me the ropes of, well, this is how I would look at a game. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I just ran with it. Like he kind of planted the seed, and I definitely molded it into my own. He doesn't even sports bet at all. So it's definitely something that's mine. I've created my own little system, my own little process, and it's worked for me, but I wouldn't exactly be here if it wasn't for definitely the poker world. Also, like that's already setting you up for having losses. If you want to build if you want to build thick blood and just like a strong mindset, then go play poker and know what it's like to lose $1,000 in 3 seconds off of one hand, off of a river. And you'll learn real quick what that feeling is. And you'll know that you don't want to ever go through it, but you're going to. And when you do, you'll know how to bounce back from it, because you have to kind of forget. You have to have a quick memory. What is it? You have to forget quickly all the bad that can come with it and just move on. So I contribute definitely poker into where I am right now.
Thank you so very much for joining us on our podcast. I mean, it was great to speak to you and pick your brain. Hopefully we can have you on later on when bowl season comes around, and you can give us a few bowl picks and a couple other things that we look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.